Hey traders, in this recap video, something different. And what I mean by that is a lot of you know that I've been pretty vigilant about the topping process. In fact, yesterday's premium and recap videos talked a lot about that topping process and how we're short the markets, still are short the markets right now, specifically the Russell and the NASDAQ. And I want to keep in mind at all times when I am short what the bullish arguments out there can be, because it's really easy to fall in love with your hypothesis, especially if it's one that's obviously rewarding you. But you always want to be vigilant about the other side of the trade. What are the buyers thinking, and what could make basically their wishes come true? And so a couple things I'm looking at. Number one, just from a technical standpoint, from the last major move, this Darvis low to near-term minor high, we've basically made a golden mean retracement. Now, that doesn't mean that this is the end. Believe me, I'm not saying that this is the bounce. But what else is happening here? We're approximately 17 days out from the G20 meeting in Buenos Aires. And I think we're going to start to see some bulls feel pretty positively about a certain narrative. And the narrative is China. Okay, the narrative is China. In fact, we get another reminder today as we saw, I believe it was Larry Kudlow at approximately 10:30 make some announcements on CNBC or whatever financial media he was on. And the conversation basically echoed the fact that I believe that the headline I saw is White House Economic Advisor Kudlow says now talking with China on trade, and that they're very positive. And the idea here is what? And why would the market sell off on that? Because we already had a narrative like that happened right before the elections, and the market rallied on it. So there's a little bit of already been discounted, right? We've already been told there's talks with China, we as in the marketplace as a whole. And so there's not a lot of reason to rally on it, but of course, there's not a lot of reason to sell off and stay really heavy on this either, because what's happening is the market's thinking, oh, it's the 13th, and they're going to meet on the 30th, and Xi and Trump may speak, and both these leaders might decide, hey, it's time to declare a ceasefire. It's time to ratchet it down. Maybe we're not going to see the 25% tariff hike on Jan 1 of 2019. I mean, there's any number of things that could take the edge off the market, right? We don't jump to 25%. That alone would send the market higher because it's less bad. It may not be good, but it's certainly less bad. And that would send the market higher in an environment, especially in the Dow and S&P, where I don't think we've fully seen capitulation from the bulls. They're not really ready to let go of the narrative that this is not just a rerun of February, April, and March, or February, March, and April, right? That we might end up with this kind of February to April chop, 50% half-back retracement here. So this isn't just an all-out assault on the market. There is not a full-on sell-off happening across all four index futures. It's much weaker in the Nikkei, it's much weaker in the NASDAQ, and it's much weaker in the Russell. That's really where most of my attention is going right now. So those markets are easier to short. But again, you got to think about what the bulls might be thinking about. And that's definitely one of them. So let's also look at a seasonal. I'm going to show you a seasonal chart right here. Here we go. This is a seasonal 5-year composite. Let's zoom in here just a bit. All right, seasonal 5-year composite. Take a look at what happens between, right here, basically about the last quarter of November, maybe the last third, if you want to look at it that way, and into December. This, by the way, gang, into January, where we typically see a pretty beefy sell-off into March, that is your Santa rally. Now, if the Santa rally kicks off with a move in here, basically looking at the way in which this market could find some buyers, and the timing is right? The timing is going to accompany that meeting on the 30th. If the timing is right, now we're talking about the kind of move that would basically confirm this seasonal composite, right? We've got the timing of the G20 in Buenos Aires, and we've got the kind of seasonal expectation for strength into the end of the year. So to see how this is all playing out, so as bearish as I am, I've got to absolutely pay attention to the potential bullishness we could see based upon the timing and the seasonals basically stacking. So keep that in mind. I am absolutely a bear. I think the downtrend is going to be a prolonged downtrend. But I think one thing that's going to really catch a lot of bears off guard is not at least opening their eyes to the point of possibly something coming out of that Buenos Aires, and we then trigger the Santa rally into January, which, by the way, is where I would expect the market to succumb to what it also does seasonally, and that's to start to head lower. Okay? All right, so something to think about. Always think about both sides of the market. Here's a breakdown of the sort of the fundamental picture in the calendar out there, coupled with some seasonal consistency. I'll see you in the next update.